Hello, and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst for HCL, supporting the HCL Integration Platform software product. This video's topic is Azure Blob Storage Adapter with HIP 1003. Okay, so let's start on the Microsoft Azure console. The first application that I'm going to go into is Storage Accounts. You will note that I have one storage account called HCL Storage. Within HCL Storage there are a couple of sub-application sections that we want to go into. First, in Overview, let's click on Containers, and you will note that I have one container called HCL Container 1. Within HCL Container 1 I have a storage object called Blob Name, currently sitting at 0 bytes. Back to HCL Storage 1 for a moment, and if we click on Access Keys, two keys are provided, a primary and a secondary. Each one comes with a connection string that contains quite a few details that we will later need in the output card of our put map and the input card of our retrieve map when we're working with the Azure Storage Adapter. Here we are in the HCL Integration Platform Design Server. As you can see, I currently have no projects, so the first thing I'm going to do is import a project. Once done, you will see I have the HCL Azure Blob project in my project list. Let's have a look at what that contains. What we've got is one file, input.txt. Now this contains just a few lines of text. In schemas we have a schema called utility, and there's just a couple of items in there. And in maps we have two maps, test1 put and test2 get. Let's start with test1 put. This map has one input card which is set using the file adapter to read the file input.txt. The output adapter is set for the Azure Blob Storage, and our access key, which we gained by looking at the string from the Azure console, has been set. So we have the access name, we have the secret access key, we have the endpoint suffix core.windows.net, we have the protocol, we have the container, we have the write method and the object name. I've got -o here to overwrite any existing content. My rule is simply copying in1 to out1. Actually it goes via a functional map. It reads rows of data, and for each row it drops down to the functional map. But in the functional map, all it does is do input to output. There we go, equals in1. So let's run this top level map. Before we do that, let me show you the content of the container as it is now. I go into my portal.azure.com, into my HCL Container 1, and you will see that blob name is currently set to 0 bytes. Let's just hit the refresh key there. Blob name, yes, 0 bytes. Okay, so let's run our map then. So this is going to read from input.txt and write to the Azure Blob Storage. The map has completed successfully. We'll have a quick look at the container now. Hit the refresh button and we have 59 bytes sitting in our blob name. Great. Okay, let's go and retrieve that information. Let's close test1 put for the moment and have a quick look at test2 get. No surprises, two input cards. The first input card is going to be reading from the Azure Blob Storage Adapter. The connection properties are listed here, and the action properties are listed here. If I click on this advanced button, you will note that the read mode has been set for delete, so that's going to empty the blob storage after the map has completed successfully. Let's click cancel. The structure of the map is pretty much the same thing. It's reading into multiple lines of text and using the same functional map to map exactly the same thing to output. Talking of output, the map is set to use the file adapter, and it's going to deliver the output to a file called output.txt. Okay, I believe this map is ready to run. As you remember, we've got 59 bytes sitting in HCL container right now. Let's build this map and run. And the run has completed successfully. That's fantastic. Let's have a look at the data we received on output. Click on View Data and a new window pops up and shows us the 3 lines of text I mentioned earlier. HCL Integration Platform, second line of message, thank you. Okay, so we have our maps and we know they work through the design server. We may need to make a couple of design changes to ensure that they work through the REST API. So let's start with map 1, which will read from REST instead of reading from input.txt. So let's right click the input, choose settings and go into the action properties. Let's turn off the advanced option for now. We've got the REST input flag here, which we're going to turn on. So this basically says that when this map is called via the REST API, this is the card that the REST input will come into. We don't need to change the output. That's going to be delivering to the Azure Blob Storage as before. So that map is now complete and ready to run. Let's click the save button there. Okay, so map 2, test2get. Test2get is a little more complicated because the in-card 1 is reading from Azure Blob Storage, and we can't change that. We can't change it to REST input, but we still have to fire off the map from REST, and it does need to have some input. So what we're going to need to have to do is create another card, and we are going to have to create a source, and we're going to have to call it into. And we are going to select the echo adapter, and we're going to echo in some dummy bytes. These won't be used, but this is going to be the REST input. So when this map is called via the REST API, the input will come into, but will be completely ignored and discarded. But in1 will still execute and get the message from us from Azure Storage, and of course out1 will deliver it to us via REST API as well. So we need to go into out properties and go into action and turn on REST output there as well. Next, okay. So this map is now complete and ready to get the data from Azure Storage after being kicked off and the rest of the data being fed into. The Azure message will go into out1 and come back to us on the REST API. So let's save that map. Close them both. And back to the home screen. I will need to create a package. I'm going to repurpose this package here, which was used for an earlier test. So package 1, I choose the project, HCL Azure Blob. I choose the maps. I want test1 put and test2 get. I click save. And then we go back to the deploy screen. I've already defined a server called local REST API, and I've got my package 1 here. Before I deploy these though, let me just quickly show you that the Swagger API currently has nothing deployed. That's this screen here. Let's refresh. Okay, yep, no endpoints have been defined. So let's go and do that deploy. The deploy was successful. Go back to the Swagger page for the endpoints, refresh, and you will note that there are now 4 entries, 2 maps with 2 types of invocation, synchronous and asynchronous. So let's fire off test1 put first. Let's go into try it out. I'm going to send in some alternative data just to show that it's coming from the REST API. This is data coming from a REST API. Let's spell that right. Okay, so let's click the execute button. You will now note that the HCL container, if I hit the refresh button, contains 37 bytes. And And if I now go back to the Swagger page and execute the get message, try it out. No need to change anything else on that screen, and I just click execute. This has happened. I can download the file here, and I can be certain it would be 37 bytes. I'm not going to look at it just now because I'm going to show it to you running in the curl command line instead. But let's have a quick look at the container and just double check that that has gone back to 0 bytes, which it has. Okay, so before I can demonstrate this curl command to you, I am going to have to put the message onto the system again. So let's do that as a curl command as well. So here's the put command. Go into a command prompt and paste that in. There we go, we've pasted some message into the REST API. And then let's use the get command and retrieve to the command line exactly the same information. And this blob name will be back to 0 bytes again. So that is a whirlwind tour of using the Azure Blob Storage adapter with both the HCL Integration Platform design server and the REST API. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit the like button. I would also like you to consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you.